The emergency alarm blared across the Galactic Research Vessel Zenoth as Chief Xenobiologist Vexar rushed down the sterile corridor, his 4 slender limbs barely touching the polished floor. The ship's lights had switched to a pulsing red, indicating a Level 1 containment breach in the primary laboratory, the first such alarm in the vessel's 7-year mission exploring the outskirts of the Milky Way. Status report. Vexar demanded as he burst through the pneumatic doors of the contamination checkpoint. His translucent skin flushed a deep purple with stress, the bioluminescent spots along his cranial ridge flaring brightly. 3 of his research assistants stood frozen before a sealed airlock. Beyond the reinforced glass, Vexar could see the main laboratory where the human exchange scientist, Carter Thompson, was standing absolutely still beside an open Petri dish. The human's face had gone pale. "The human has compromised specimen 7XB, said Milo, Vexar's senior assistant. Her voice trembled with the gravity of the situation. "The unknown bacterial culture from Proxima Centauri b." Vexar's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, the equivalent of a human gasp. Specimen 7XB was potentially the most significant discovery of their expedition. A bacterial organism unlike any in the known galaxy, with a structure that defied conventional classification. They had collected it from the water of an underground thermal vent on humanity's closest exoplanet neighbor. "What happened? How did this breach occur?" Vexar demanded, activating the intercom to the quarantined lab. The human looked up, his expression a mix of embarrassment and alarm. I forgot to wash my hands," Carter said, his voice small through the speaker system. "After lunch. I was excited about the new electron microscope results and I just forgot." Vexar felt all 3 of his hearts skip simultaneously. "You introduced unknown human microbiota to the most enigmatic extraterrestrial bacterial specimen we've discovered. Do you understand what you've done?" Carter winced. "I'm sorry. I know it's basic protocol." "I got distracted and initiate full containment protocols," Vexar cut him off, addressing the ship's AI. "Seal Laboratory 1 and begin atmospheric isolation. No one enters, nothing leaves." He turned to his team. "Prepare the emergency observation suite. We need to monitor both the specimen and Carter for any reactions." "Should we inform Earth Central?" asked Milo, already pulling up communication protocols on her data pad. Vexar hesitated. The Intergalactic Research Accord was clear any potential cross-species contamination required immediate reporting. But alerting Earth's authorities might mean the end of their research mission. They would order the specimen destroyed, the lab sterilized, and possibly even quarantine the entire ship. "Not yet," Vexar decided. "We need more data. For now, this is a contained incident." "Carter," he addressed the human again through the intercom, "don't touch anything else. Stay exactly where you are until we establish a proper decontamination procedure." Carter nodded, visibly sweating now. "What happens if the bacteria react badly to human microbes?" "I don't know," Vexar admitted, his tone grave. "That's what we need to find out." What none of them realized in that moment was that this accidental contamination would prove to be the most remarkable scientific accident in the history of interspecies research, and would test the boundaries of both their scientific understanding and their newfound alliance between species. Inside the sealed lab, Carter remained motionless, watching the open Petri dish with growing anxiety. The bacterial culture didn't look like much to the naked eye, just a faintly purple smear on the nutrient medium, but under the microscope, it had revealed structures unlike any life form known to human or alien science. The microscopic organisms had multiple nuclei-like structures and a cell membrane composed of exotic compounds not found in Earth's biosphere. And now, because of his carelessness, unknown human bacteria from his unwashed hands had been introduced to this alien life form. "Carter, I need you to carefully place the Petri dish under the live microscope feed," Vexar instructed through the intercom. Use the mechanical arms, not your hands. Carter nodded and carefully operated the robotic manipulators built into the lab bench. With exacting precision, he transferred the contaminated sample onto the platform of the advanced microscope. In the observation room, Vexar and his team watched as the high-definition feed activated, showing the bacterial culture at 10,000 times magnification. The alien bacteria were immediately recognizable by their distinctive purple-hued cell structures. But now, scattered among them, were the familiar rod and spherical shapes of human bacteria, likely common skin microbes like Staphylococcus epidermidis, or perhaps something from the lunch Carter had eaten. Mark timestamp and begin recording all changes, Vexar ordered. Full spectrum analysis. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The two bacterial populations existed separately on the medium, neither interacting with the other. Carter's shoulders began to relax slightly. Maybe they're incompatible, he suggested hopefully. Different biochemistry, different cellular structures. They might not recognize each other as anything meaningful. Vexar was about to respond when Milo gasped, pointing at the screen. Look! At the boundary where the two bacterial populations met, something extraordinary was happening. The purple alien bacteria were extending tiny filament structures they hadn't observed before toward the human bacteria. The filaments made contact with the Earth microbes and then, before their astonished eyes, began to pull them closer. Are they feeding? Asked Lindar, another research assistant, his voice hushed with scientific awe. No, Vexar whispered, leaning closer to the screen. They're communicating. The alien bacteria were not consuming the human microbes as they had initially feared. Instead, they appeared to be exchanging material microscopic packets of what could only be genetic information or chemical signals were passing between the two species. This is unprecedented, Vexar said, his scientific excitement momentarily overriding his alarm at the containment breach. We're witnessing first contact at a cellular level. Carter, watching the same feed inside the lab, felt a mixture of relief and scientific curiosity. Should I be worried about, what's happening to my bacteria? Could this affect me somehow? The question snapped Vexar back to the potential danger of the situation. We need to monitor you for any signs of infection or reaction. The risk is minimal since there's no direct contact between you and the specimen now, but we can't rule out airborne transmission. As they spoke, the microscope feed showed the interaction accelerating. The human bacteria were changing their cell walls, becoming slightly iridescent, taking on a faint purple tinge similar to the alien microbes. They're adapting, Milo observed. The human bacteria are incorporating elements from the alien cells. But the changes are going both ways, Vexar noted, pointing to where the alien bacteria were also transforming, their structures simplifying in ways that more closely resembled Earth microbes. This isn't predation, it's cooperation. Carter suddenly felt a strange, tingling sensation in his right hand, the one he'd used to touch the Petri dish. Guys, something's happening to my hand." He held it up to the camera. There was no visible change, but the tingling was intensifying, spreading up his arm. "Medical scanner," Vexar ordered sharply. "Carter, use the portable med scanner in the emergency cabinet. Check your vital signs and blood composition." Carter hurried to the wall cabinet and removed the handheld device, running it over his body as instructed. The results appeared simultaneously on his screen and in the observation room. "Elevated white blood cell count," Vexar read aloud. "Increased metabolic activity in the epidermis of your right hand, temperature slightly elevated. Your immune system is responding to something." "Am I in danger?" Carter asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Not necessarily," Vexar replied, though his tone wasn't entirely convincing. "Your body is detecting something unfamiliar and mounting a standard immune response, but we need to monitor how this progresses. Over the next several hours, They watched with fascination and concern as both the bacterial interaction in the Petri dish and Carter's condition evolved. The human scientist's symptoms remained mild: the tingling sensation, slightly elevated temperature, and a faint purplish tinge appearing under the skin of his palm, visible only under ultraviolet light. Meanwhile, the bacterial sample was transforming into something entirely new. The two distinct populations were merging, creating hybrid structures that combined elements from both worlds. Under the electron microscope, they could see that the new hybrid bacteria possessed both the complex nuclei structures of the alien microbes and the efficient reproductive mechanisms of Earth bacteria. "It's like they're taking the best from both species," Milo observed, her scientific fascination evident despite the serious situation. 18 hours into the containment, Carter was sitting on the lab floor, back against the wall, looking tired but alert. The tingling had spread throughout his body, but had not intensified, and his vital signs remained stable. The medical scanner showed that the unusual activity was now concentrated in his digestive system and skin, both areas rich in natural human microbiota. "I think my gut bacteria are getting in on the action," Carter commented, attempting humor despite his obvious concern. "My stomach feels weird, not painful, just active." Vexar had not left the observation room since the incident began, monitoring both the sample and Carter continuously. "The hybrid bacteria in the Petri dish have stabilized into a new form. They're no longer changing, but they're reproducing rapidly. Carter, we need a sample from your affected hand to compare." Carter followed the instructions to safely extract a skin sample and place it under a separate microscope. The images that came through shocked the research team. The microbes on Carter's skin were undergoing the same hybridization process they had observed in the Petri dish. "I've made a decision," Vexar announced. "We need to inform both the Galactic Science Council and Earth Central. This goes beyond a simple contamination incident now. We're witnessing the birth of an entirely new life form, a true Earth-alien hybrid at the cellular level. The scientific implications are enormous, but so are the potential risks." Carter nodded soberly. "I agree, and I'm the first human host for whatever this is. That makes me patient zero." "Not necessarily a patient," Vexar corrected. "So far, these microbes don't appear pathogenic. They're not attacking your cells or causing disease symptoms. They're coexisting, transforming. But yes, you are the first documented case of a human harboring these hybrid organisms." As Vexar prepared the emergency transmission to both human and alien authorities, Carter made a surprising observation. "The tingling is subsiding," he reported, examining his hand. "And I feel good, really good actually, like I just had the best night's sleep of my life." The medical scanner confirmed Carter's subjective experience. His vital signs were not just normal but optimal. His metabolic efficiency had increased, and the scanner was detecting improved cellular repair mechanisms throughout his body. "This is unexpected," Vexar admitted. "The hybrid microbes appear to be conferring benefits to your physiology." Before they could discuss this further, the ship's communication system activated with an incoming priority message. The large screen in both rooms displayed the stern face of Commander Alara Voss of Earth Central Science Division. "Research Vessel Zenoth, we've received your emergency transmission regarding a xenobiological contamination event," she stated without preamble. "Our experts are extremely concerned about the potential for a cross-species pandemic. You are ordered to implement full quarantine protocols and prepare for an emergency response team. No one is to leave the vessel under any circumstances." Carter stepped forward so he was visible in the camera. "Commander Voss, I'm the human involved in the incident. I need to emphasize that what we're seeing isn't behaving like a pathogen. The hybrid bacteria appear to be symbiotic, possibly beneficial." Commander Voss's expression remained severe. "Doctor." Thompson, with all due respect, you cannot possibly know that yet. We have no idea how these hybrid organisms might spread or evolve once introduced to Earth's biosphere or human population. The risk is unacceptable. The commander is right, Vexar interjected. Despite the apparently positive effects on Carter, we must proceed with extreme caution. This is unprecedented territory. The emergency response vessel will reach your location in approximately 48 hours, Commander Voss continued. Until then, maintain strict containment and continue monitoring. I want hourly updates on Dr. Thompson's condition and detailed analysis of these hybrid organisms. Voss out. As the screen went dark, Carter slumped against the lab wall. 48 hours in quarantine. Great. It's the correct protocol, Vexar reminded him. And it gives us time to gather more data. What happened over those 48 hours would change the course of both human and alien scientific understanding forever, and challenge the very definition of what it meant to be human. By the 30-hour mark, Carter's condition had evolved dramatically. The purple tinge had spread visibly across his skin, giving him a slightly iridescent appearance under certain light. Far from being ill, however, he reported feeling healthier than ever before. My eyesight has improved, he noted, reading tiny text on a distant screen without difficulty. And I haven't felt hungry or thirsty since yesterday, but my energy levels are perfect. The medical scans revealed why the hybrid bacteria had spread throughout his body and were dramatically improving his cellular efficiency. They appeared to be extracting maximum nutrition from the food already in his system and optimizing his metabolism. They're helping you, Milo observed, analyzing the latest scans. The alien bacteria's ability to function in extreme environments combined with human bacteria's adaptability has created something remarkable. Vexar, though fascinated by the scientific implications, remained cautious. We don't know the long-term effects, and we still don't know if these hybrid microbes can transfer from Carter to other humans. To test this, they had Carter deposit saliva, sweat, and other bodily fluids into sealed containers, which were then exposed to standard human tissue cultures in the lab's automated testing system. The results were surprising. The hybrid bacteria did not aggressively colonize the new human tissues. They seemed to require some sort of invitation or specific environmental conditions to establish themselves. They're not behaving like an infectious agent, Vexar noted, more like a specialized symbiont that requires specific circumstances to bond with a host. As the hours passed, Carter began to exhibit more unusual abilities. He could sense subtle changes in the environment around him, detecting minute shifts in temperature, air composition, and even electromagnetic fields that the ship's sensitive instruments could barely register. It's like I have new senses, he explained, his eyes wide with wonder. I can feel the ship's power fluctuations through my skin. I can sense where each of you are, even through walls, by some kind of electromagnetic awareness. The hybrid bacteria had formed a network throughout his nervous system, effectively expanding his sensory capabilities beyond normal human limits. It was as if they were serving as microscopic biological sensors, feeding information directly to his brain. Vexar documented everything meticulously, sending hourly reports to both Earth Central and the Galactic Science Council as ordered. The responses became increasingly urgent as Carter's transformation continued. Both human and alien authorities were deeply concerned about the unprecedented nature of what was occurring. At the 40-hour mark, Carter made another startling discovery. I think I can communicate with them, he said suddenly. With whom? Vexar asked, looking up from his data analysis. The bacteria. The hybrids, Carter clarified. Not in words, but I can sense their collective state, their needs, their purpose. He closed his eyes, concentrating. They're not just random microbes. There's an intelligence to their collective behavior. They're trying to help me to improve me. This revelation sent shockwaves through the research team. The idea that the bacterial collective might possess some form of intelligence was revolutionary and terrifying in equal measure. "Can you communicate back?" Vexar asked, his scientific curiosity overriding his caution. Carter nodded slowly. "I think so. When I focus on certain thoughts or intentions, I can feel them responding, shifting their activity." He demonstrated by visibly changing the purple bioluminescence in his hand, making it brighten and dim through apparent conscious control. "This goes far beyond anything we anticipated," Vexar admitted. "You're developing a symbiotic relationship with these organisms at a neural level." As the 48-hour mark approached and the emergency response vessel neared, tension mounted aboard the Zenoth. Carter's transformation had stabilized. He remained human in appearance, except for the subtle purple iridescence of his skin, but his capabilities had been significantly enhanced by the bacterial symbiosis. "What do you think they'll do with me?" Carter asked Vexar through the intercom, his voice betraying his anxiety. "I'm not sick, but I'm definitely not the same person I was 2 days ago." Vexar had been considering this question himself. Standard protocol would call for isolation and extensive study. "They'll want to understand exactly what's happened to you and assess any potential risk." "You mean I'll be a lab rat?" Carter said flatly. "I hope not," Vexar replied honestly. "I've emphasized in my reports that this appears to be a beneficial symbiosis, not an infection or disease state. But both human and alien authorities are understandably cautious about anything this unprecedented." Carter paced the lab, his movements more fluid and precise than before. "I don't feel dangerous. If anything, I feel more connected to everything around me. These bacteria, they've opened my perception in ways I never imagined possible." The ship's communication system chimed, announcing the arrival of the emergency response vessel. Commander Voss appeared on screen again, now dressed in a full biological containment suit. "We've docked with your vessel," she announced. "Prepare for the quarantine team to enter through the external airlock. Dr. Thompson will be transferred to our containment unit for transport back to Earth Central's biomedical facility." Carter stepped forward. "Commander, I need you to understand that what's happened to me isn't a disease. These hybrid bacteria aren't harmful, they're beneficial. They're enhancing my biology, not damaging it." Commander Voss's expression remained impassive behind her faceplate. "That will be for our scientists to determine in a controlled environment, Dr. Thompson. We cannot risk exposure to the general population until we fully understand what we're dealing with." Vexar intervened. "Commander, as the chief xenobiologist on this mission, I must insist on accompanying Dr. Thompson. These hybrid organisms originated from a specimen under my research authority, and I'm uniquely qualified to assist in their analysis." After a moment's consideration, Commander Voss nodded. "Granted, Chief Xenobiologist. You may join the quarantine team, following full decontamination protocols." An hour later, Carter found himself being escorted onto the Earth vessel, sealed in a mobile quarantine unit that reminded him uncomfortably of a transparent coffin. Vexar followed, encased in a human-designed containment suit that accommodated his alien physiology. The Earth vessel's quarantine bay was state-of-the-art, with multiple layers of biological security and the most advanced medical monitoring equipment available. As soon as they were aboard, a team of scientists in full containment gear began running tests on Carter, taking samples of every bodily fluid and scanning him with instruments that made even Vexar's alien technology look primitive. Dr. Nadia Rixton, Earth Central's leading xenopathologist, led the examination. "Fascinating," she murmured, studying the results of Carter's blood analysis. "The hybrid bacteria have integrated with your normal microbiome completely. They're even synchronizing with your own cellular rhythms." "I've been trying to tell everyone they're not hurting me," Carter insisted. "They're helping me. I can prove it." To demonstrate, he asked for a complex mathematical equation, which Dr. Rixton provided a differential equation that would normally require significant calculation time. Carter solved it mentally in seconds, explaining that the bacterial network was somehow enhancing his cognitive processing. "They're acting like biological quantum computers," he explained, "distributing the computational load across billions of bacterial cells." Dr. Rixton exchanged looks with her colleagues. "The implications are profound," she admitted. "But we still need to understand the mechanism and assess the long-term effects, and most critically, determine if this symbiosis can spread to others." "Our testing suggests it cannot spread through casual contact," Vexar offered. "The hybrid bacteria require specific conditions to establish symbiosis." "What conditions?" Dr. Rixton asked sharply. Carter and Vexar exchanged glances. "We believe it requires direct intentional contact with the original alien bacteria," Carter explained. "Essentially, you'd have to do exactly what I did, touch the alien culture with your bare skin. And even then, it might require a particular state of the human microbiome to succeed." The next week was a blur of tests, examinations, and increasingly high-level discussions about Carter's condition. He was transferred to a specialized facility on Earth's moon, isolated from the general population but provided with comfortable quarters and the ability to communicate with the research team. Vexar remained with him throughout, both as a scientific collaborator and, increasingly, as a friend. The alien scientist had come to respect Carter deeply, not just for his resilience in the face of this transformation, but for his insights into the symbiotic relationship he developed with the hybrid bacteria. "They're teaching me," Carter explained one evening as they sat in his quarantine suite reviewing the latest test results. "Not with words, but with direct information transfer. I'm learning about their home world, the thermal vents of Proxima Centauri B, where you found them. The conditions there, the ecosystem they were part of." "That's remarkable," Vexar said. "You're receiving memories from a bacterial collective, more like." "Environmental data they've evolved to sense and respond to," Carter clarified. "They evolved in an extreme environment, high pressure, variable temperatures, complex chemical soup. It made them incredibly adaptable and responsive to their surroundings. When they encountered human bacteria, they recognized the potential for a mutually beneficial exchange." Meanwhile, in laboratories around the quarantine facility, scientists were carefully studying samples of the hybrid bacteria under strictly controlled conditions. They discovered that the microbes had remarkable properties. They could break down pollutants, generate energy from minimal resources, and potentially even repair damaged tissues. 3 weeks into Carter's quarantine, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Rixton burst into the morning briefing, her usually composed demeanor replaced with excitement. "We've identified the mechanism of symbiosis," she announced. "The hybrid bacteria aren't just living alongside human cells, they're establishing microscopic connections similar to synapses. They're creating a bacterial neural network that interfaces with the human nervous system." This explained Carter's enhanced senses and cognitive abilities. The bacteria were effectively serving as biological processors and sensors, extending his natural capabilities. "But here's the truly revolutionary part," Dr. Rixton continued. "We believe we can control the symbiosis. The hybrid bacteria respond to specific chemical signals. We can potentially create a version of this symbiotic relationship that's regulated and limited to specific beneficial functions, without the more dramatic transformative effects." The implications were enormous. Controlled bacterial symbiosis could revolutionize medicine, environmental remediation, even space exploration. Humans with specialized bacterial symbionts might be able to survive in hostile environments that would normally be lethal. As the scientific understanding grew, the attitude toward Carter began to shift from fear to curiosity, and even excitement. His quarantine restrictions were gradually relaxed, as it became clear that the hybrid bacteria couldn't spread unless deliberately transferred under specific conditions. 2 months after the initial incident, Carter was allowed to leave the lunar facility and return to Earth, though still under medical monitoring. He had adjusted well to his transformed state, learning to control his enhanced senses and abilities. The purple iridescence of his skin had faded to a faint glow that was only visible in darkness, making it possible for him to move through society without immediately drawing attention. Vexar returned to the research vessel Zenoth, but maintained regular communication with Carter and the Earth scientists. The diplomatic and scientific cooperation between humans and Vexar's species deepened as they worked together to understand and harness the potential of the hybrid bacteria. A year after the contamination incident, Carter stood at a podium before the United Earth Science Council, with Vexar beside him as an honored guest. They were there to present the findings of what had become known as the Proxima Symbiosis Project. What began as a simple mistake forgetting to wash my hands has led to one of the most significant scientific discoveries in human history, Carter began, looking out at the assembled dignitaries and scientists. The hybrid bacteria now living within me have not only enhanced my capabilities, but have opened a new frontier in our understanding of life itself. He gestured to Vexar. Through cooperation between our species, we've developed methods to create controlled symbiotic relationships that could help us address some of our most pressing challenges, from curing diseases to cleaning our environment to adapting to life on other worlds. Vexar stepped forward. The bacteria from Proxima Centauri evolved in isolation for billions of years, developing unique solutions to survival in extreme conditions. Human bacteria evolved on Earth with their own remarkable adaptations. When these two met through what humans might call a fortunate accident, they created something greater than the sum of their parts. After the presentation, as Carter and Vexar stood on a balcony overlooking the lights of New Geneva, they reflected on how far they had come from that moment of panic in the research vessel's laboratory. "You ever regret it?" Vexar asked. "Forgetting to wash your hands that day?" Carter laughed, the sound genuine and warm. "How could I? It changed everything, not just for me, but potentially for all of humanity, and it taught us something profound about life." "What's that?" Vexar inquired, his alien features expressing curiosity. "That sometimes the most meaningful connections happen by accident," Carter replied, looking up at the night sky where the star Proxima Centauri was just barely visible. "And that life, no matter where it evolves in the universe, seeks to adapt, to connect, to become more than it was before." As they stood there, human and alien, forever connected by an accidental contamination that had led to a new understanding of life's possibilities, the hybrid bacteria within Carter sensed his contentment and responded with a soft purple glow beneath his skin, a visible symbol of the bridge now formed between two worlds that had once been separated by the vast gulfs of space. In the 5 years that followed, the Proxima Symbiosis Project expanded beyond anything Carter or Vexar could have imagined. Carefully controlled versions of the hybrid bacteria were developed for specific applications: environmental restoration symbionts that could clean polluted waters, medical symbionts that targeted specific diseases, and agricultural symbionts that helped crops thrive in harsh conditions. Carter himself became something of a scientific celebrity, though he tried to maintain as normal a life as possible. He returned to active research, leading a new division at Earth Central dedicated to symbiotic technologies. His unique perspective experiencing symbiosis from the inside provided insights that purely external observation could never achieve. Vexar divided his time between Earth and his home world, serving as the primary liaison between the two species on all matters related to the hybrid bacteria. The scientific cooperation spawned diplomatic initiatives, cultural exchanges, and eventually, joint space exploration missions. On the 10th anniversary of what was now called First Contact at the cellular level, Carter and Vexar stood together on the observation deck of the new intergalactic research station, orbiting Proxima Centauri B, the world where it all began. Below them, the first joint human-alien settlement was taking shape on the planet's surface, made possible by environmental adaptation technologies derived from the hybrid bacteria. It's remarkable to think that all of this began because you forgot a basic laboratory protocol, Vexar commented, his tone light. Carter smiled, watching the movement of exploration vehicles across the alien landscape below. The purple glow beneath his skin had become a familiar part of him now, barely noticeable except in moments of strong emotion. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd remembered to wash my hands that day, he mused. All of this, he gestured to the research station, the settlement below, and the fleet of vessels in orbit, might never have existed. Perhaps it was inevitable, Vexar suggested. If not you, some other researcher might have made a similar mistake eventually. Life finds ways to connect across barriers. That's what the bacteria taught me, Carter agreed. They don't see boundaries the way we do. To them, different isn't threatening, it's an opportunity. As they spoke, a notification appeared on the holographic display beside them. It was a live feed from a laboratory deep within the research station, where the latest generation of controlled symbiosis was being tested, a version designed specifically to allow humans to process the toxic elements in Proxima Centauri B's atmosphere, potentially eliminating the need for environmental suits on the planet's surface. Should we go see the test results? Vexar asked. Carter nodded, and as they made their way through the station, he reflected on how much his life had changed from that moment of carelessness in a spaceship laboratory. What had begun as a potential disaster had transformed into humanity's greatest opportunity, a living bridge between species, between worlds, between different forms of life that had evolved separately across the vast distances of space. The bacteria within him sensed his reflective mood and responded, not just with the familiar purple glow but with a sensation of connection that extended beyond himself to Vexar, to the station around them, to the planet below, and to the vast possibilities that still lay ahead. In that moment, Carter Thompson, the human who forgot to wash his hands, understood that he had become something more than just the first host of a new symbiosis. He had become a symbol of what was possible when different forms of life came together, not in conflict, but in cooperation. And that, he realized, was the greatest discovery of all.